you started out in a group.
Yeah.
And when you're in a group, there are a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody can do this, somebody can do that. But when you go solo, you're the only moving part. You're the only thing that they see. Were you nervous? Were you apprehensive about going solo because you had had such success in a group?
Yeah, that journey was really interesting because, you know, there was a lot going on with the group at the time, and, you know, essentially we separated, and it was never my plan to quote unquote go solo the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it wasn't in my plan. You know, a lot of things were happening so fast.
Right.
And it was like, all right, well, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, you going solo. And I'm like, I am? Okay. So it was nerve-wracking, you know what I mean? But it was, again, very natural for me to step into that space, you know. Even though it wasn't a plan, you know, the universe has an interesting way. Yeah, you know what I mean? Have an interesting way of constructing things.
Right.
And even though it felt like I was being ripped apart from my group because, you know, we were essentially, you know, brothers, you know what I'm saying? Creating a bond, spending so much time together. Doing artist development. When you spend that much time, you know, just like a team, you know what I'm saying? Those people
you spend more
become
time with those guys than you actual family. They become family.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So the transition, I would say, was nerve-wracking, you know, but essentially, you know, when I find my footing and, you know, I regained the confidence, because I remember my first show that I had to do without the boys. And I was so nervous.
Right.
I even shed a little tear, you know what I mean? Because I was just not prepared mentally.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I stepped into the spot, and, you know, the success of everything definitely made it all right. You know?
Like, okay, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, okay, yeah, we dripping still. Okay, I got to work with some of my favorite producers, you know, Pharrell Williams, you know what I mean? Timberland, you know what I mean? Like, so it was a kind of meant to be kind of thing, even though it was like, oh my God, I'm not ready for this.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So let me ask you a question. So when you was like, okay, whose decision was that? Did you talk to your mom, or was it a manager that's like, you know, you can do this on your own? Did you sit down and talk to your mom? Mom, they think I should go solo. What do you think? So who do you bounce that off of?
Yeah. So at that time, you know, it was so much, you know, drama going on with the group and the separation between, you know, teams. And essentially it was like I kind of found out on the spot. It was like, okay, Omarion is going solo. I would say the lead up to that was on the Pandemonium album and B2K, we all had our individual albums, which was kind of like, you know, like, all right, you know, this person has this separate fans. Everybody loves this group member. Everybody loves this group member. So it was cool.
Right.
But it was like the idea was kind of being introduced to us.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? One of the other members was being presented with an album. You know what I mean? And it was kind of like we were all getting in that mindset of.
Was that common? That everybody, I mean, you know, you see like Jeffrey Osborne, LTD,
Right.
he goes solo. Philip Bailey, Earth, Wind and Fire, he does solo. And we see some of the guys that were from big groups do a solo project. But damn, it seemed like everybody had a solo project in the group.
Right. I mean, you know, being, you know, the young, you know, the youngest, you know, black boy band out there.
Right.
You know, we did all have our own little set of fans, and everybody that may have loved this member or loved this member.
Right.
So yeah, even though I think that it was indicative to groups,
Right.
like we were so young, we weren't even thinking about that.
Right.
You know, we weren't even thinking in the headspace of, you know, what does the future hold? Like, well, I want to be a solo artist.
Right.
I think we were just really, you know, being present, you know, trying our best to be present, because our schedule was crazy. It was like, okay, you know, I'll never forget this schedule when we dropped our album. We did all of the boroughs in New York. Wow. And we started in the morning and we ended up, you know, at night, you know, doing this big performance. So I don't think that we were even thinking about that. You know what I'm saying? We was just like having fun, performing, and being kids.
Right. Did you see it? Because you look at, I don't know how, I know you're familiar with New Edition, and you see Bobby Brown does his thing, and then Ralph Tresvant does his thing, and Ronnie Bobby, they go off and do their thing. Did that thought ever cross your mind? Like, well, damn, you know, because everybody loved New Edition.
Yeah.
And then eventually, guys did their own thing, and we see them back together now. But did that cross your mind? Did you think that might happen to you guys?
No, I I didn't know how things would happen, especially because we were like huge fans of Five Heartbeats.
Okay,
you know? So that was like one of our one of our go-to movies to watch. And it's just so interesting how life is, you know, just stranger than fiction because it's essential. I mean, essentially, we kind of went through our own little version of that. You know what I'm saying? And I think that when, you know, we're talking about kids in the entertainment business, you know, unless you really have a strong foundation, you're really subjected to, you know, a lot of things. You know, we see so many, you know, child celebrities that go through so many things when they don't have strong foundations. You know what I mean? And I have to, again, you know, shout out my moms and my foundation.
Yeah, because it seemed like your mom was always a mom and never a fan. Because sometimes they can get seduced by all the money that's coming in and they forget, well, that's my child. And he's going astray or he's not getting proper guidance because of the money that's coming in, and they become a fan and they get seduced to the star, the limelight. But it seemed like your mom was always a mom.
Yeah, and she was actually one of the few parents that were able to be there because she was the hairstylist for the group too. You know what I'm saying? So my mom, my mom was always with me. You know what I'm saying? My mom would always, you know, do our hair. So yeah, I did have that other kind of support system.
Were you shocked? I mean, you look at your debut album, debut #1 on the Billboard chart, you go platinum, Grammy nomination, second. I mean, were you surprised at how well you did out the gate?
You know, I didn't even think about it like that. You know, I didn't even, you know, it's crazy to say, you know, and now looking back on it in hindsight, everything was going so fast. You know what I mean? So I wasn't able to really essentially appreciate those feats. You know, I was you know, built as a workhorse. So it was like, oh, okay, that's cool. What's next? You know what I'm saying? So looking at it and, you know, looking back at it, I'm like, I'm like, wow. You know what I mean? Like, that was cool to be experiencing at such a young age. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, nah, I wasn't even tripping off of it. I was just like, yeah, I'm me. I'm showing up. You know what I mean? What's next?
You're sitting atop the charts of the R&B, pop. You're like, man, I kind of like this. I kind of like it.
It's lit. And also coming from, you know, the B2K, you know what I'm saying? Like, it you know, it felt real easy. You know, it felt like that's how it was supposed to be. You know what I'm saying?
Given the success of your first album, how much pressure did that put on you, the second album coming out? Because, you know, everybody wants to do better than the first. And you want to prove that the first wasn't a fluke, that this is it. I'm legit.
Well, the second album, you know, still being able to work with, you know, mega producers like Timberland and Pharrell, you know, I felt like I was in good company. And actually that second album, you know, was probably the most I ever got paid in an advancement. You know what I mean? Being under Donnie Ienner and Lisa Ellis. So I was really starting to essentially step into more of a business mindset. Yeah, and so looking at that second album, I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, this is how it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? And also it was the transition that I figured out, you know, the importance of having champions inside of certain companies, because this is when the music business changed too. You know, after that album, you know, Icebox was still, you know, being one of the biggest records, you know, that I had to date, you know, outside of O and Touch. You know what I mean? Like when Donnie Ienner and Lisa Ellis no longer worked for the company, that was like, oh, you know, that was a big a big learning experience for me, and also essential to growth, you know what I mean? Because life is not, you know, just full of grand successes, you know what I mean? Life is ups and downs, and like, what's a story, you know, without ups and downs, you know what I mean? So while my second album was still a major success, I was beginning to experience, you know, the challenges of, you know, not having champions in, you know, in the building, in my corner, you know what I mean? And again, it was so essential to my growth, you know. Any artist that tells you that it's always good, it's just like, that's fake. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, while that was a successful album, it was also like, oh, wow, I gotta switch things up. You know, I need to do different things. So, great learning experience.
But it seems to me that you've always stayed true to who you are and what you are. You haven't tried to follow a trend. You're like, I'm Omarion, this is who I am, this is what I do.
Yeah, I always try to show up in, spaces that way because, we're all, individually going, on our own personal walks.
Right.
And a lot of the time, the industry and also, my peers, they like to, compete, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But the thing about competing in the music business is not the same as football. It's not the same as basketball. You know what I'm saying? Like where, or even boxing or UFC, where it's like, all right, I won the fight and boom, we can shake hands. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, whoever's having the biggest year is having the biggest year. And it's like, salute, you know what I'm saying? And you got to stand in that line until you figure out when it's your time again. You know what I mean? So I always like to show up as an individual and contribute what I can as an artist, you know what I'm saying? Because again, you know what I mean? Like everybody's here to give something different. Everybody has their own experience and their own walk, you know what I mean? And I've always stayed true to that, you know what I mean? Realizing that, my experience is different from everybody else's.
How hard is it to grow apart from people? Or how hard was it for you to grow apart, knowing that the evolution that you must go through, everybody can't come along with Omarion?
Yeah. It has at times, felt lonely, you know what I mean? But essentially, you know what I mean? Because, that's my favorite word, essentially. Essentially, those that are meant to, go on the journey with you, they'll grow with you.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I made peace with that very early on because I started so young. You know what I mean? I only got to experience, you
really never had a childhood, did you?
Yeah, I mean, 10th grade, I was out of school. You know what I mean? I went to Hamilton High. Shout out to all the Hamilton alumni. You know what I mean? After 10th grade, I was on the road.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I didn't have so many friends.
Right.
I do still have my one best friend from 3rd grade. You know what I mean? Yeah, so, he stuck with me and I stuck with him. You know what I mean? So family has always been the nucleus for me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I never had to experience too many, people that were along my journey that's like no longer here. The people that are here still, they're supposed to be here.
You look at a Michael Jackson, you look at a Chris Brown, you look at a Beyonce, yourself, people that started out as child entertainers and then have this long career as adults. How have you been able to maintain or manage that?
I think by not being pigeonholed by, having one hit, or having hits. They call those legacy artists now. You know what I mean? Certain people that ever go on tour and do songs that they did in the past.
Right.
While I think that that's important, I think it's even more important to continue to grow as an artist,
right.
And when I look at my predecessors and people that I look up to, like Michael Jackson and Marvin Gaye, when I realized how dope, Stevie Wonder was, it
right.
was like, it was immediate, and now today's climate, I think people that are born, in my year, like LeBron, you know what I'm saying? We both 84 babies. It's like we've seen him just grow,
right.
you know what I mean? And
right.
I think that that's what's so cool about now is that there's no limits,
right.
you know what I'm saying? You can just continue to get better, try different things, do different things. And I think that that is what has been, essential to my right. success and staying relevant is I'm not afraid to do new things.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
What is some of the advice you would give the young and up-and-coming artists? If you could sit down and there's some artists that are like, oh, we're new to the business, give us some advice. What's some of the advice that you would give a new up-and-coming artist?
I would say perfect your craft. Don't put yourself in a box. Don't allow others to put you in a box. And just try new things, you know what I mean? And also, it's very important that, whoever is representing you, is representing you in the way you want to be represented. Okay. You know what I mean? I think that it's so important when we're talking about business, that people honor fairness, because as you know, this business isn't fair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And people always want things from you when you're hot. You know what I mean? So realize, that this is an up and down experience. This is a motion experience. This is not just a flat line. Right. You know what I mean? And just continue to grow, you know what I mean? Perfect your craft, love what you do, find your purpose in it, and have intention. Right. That is really what saved me from feeling like I wanted to quit or feeling like I wanted you know, give it up. You know, like, oh, can he have another hit? I don't know why. It's like, you know, the public puts that on you.
Right.
They put that on you. They put on you like, oh, he's old, or, you know, like, oh, well, we seen him do this before, but it's levels to this.
Right.
You know what I mean? So continue to grow, and yeah, do your best. Show up as your best.
What are some of the benefits and the drawback of social media? Because now everybody is a producer, everybody is a songwriter, everybody has an opinion, and somebody says this, it can go viral in 15 seconds, and then all of a sudden you're being talked about. What's your qualifications to judge what I did or who I am?
Right. I think the pros of social media is that, you know, it can get hot overnight.
Yeah.
You know, and that was different from the time in which I entered into the music business, or the entertainment business, which was like, you actually have to do the work.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But you can also burn out fast.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You can be hot. I mean, it's so many, what do they call them? Socialites, social media personalities.
Influencers.
Yeah, influencers that have been successful at one thing and then they disappear.
Right.
And then you find them and then you see them on the street and you be like, oh, what happened, man? You know what I mean? So I think that, you know, there are some good things about social media and then there's some adverse things. You know, I wouldn't say bad if you know how to navigate.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But, you know, I think, you know, being intentional is important. You know, I couldn't believe that the Omarion challenge, you know, came from, you know, 6 years ago, this performance, you know, that I did.
Right.
And then it was like, you know, football players was doing it when they, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so you can have some incredible success from, you know, the internet.
Right.
You know what I mean? But you can have some adverse things too.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't want no sex tape out there.
Nah,
you know what I'm saying? You want your ass out on the internet because it never go away.
No,
you know what I'm saying? So, you know, I would just say, you know, be thoughtful, but I think that is the good and bad thing.
You know what to do. Hit the subscribe button and become an official member of Club Shay Shay, where we do something before two something.